Hello, hello, lovely people. How are you today? Sandra here again, and welcome to another episode of My Life and the Bible. So, today I want us to talk about a man called Naaman. Naaman is found in the book of Second Kings, chapter 5. And Naaman, according to the Bible, says he was an army commander um, in the kingdom of Aram. And it says that the king of Aram had great admiration for him because he was a great warrior and he had won very many victories for the kingdom. But one thing about Naaman is that he was leprous. He had leprosy. And while he was doing all these great things, he had that one sticking issue in his life. So, according to the story, it tells us that the Aramean raiders had invaded the land of Israel, and one of the captives they had taken was one of these girls, a young girl, that happened to be given to Naaman's wife as a maid. Now, of course, she had seen the condition that Naaman was in, and she had told her mistress, who is the wife of Naaman, that he should go to a prophet, to the prophet in Israel, okay, to the prophet in Samaria, so that he could be healed, right? So Naaman's wife goes back to him and tells him what her maid servant had told her. And of course, remember, it's a sticking issue in his life. So he goes to the king and tells the king about what the maid had said. And the king was like, fine, I'll write a letter for you to go and speak. I'll write a letter to the king and then you can go and get healed, right? Okay. So then Naaman gets himself together, gets his men together, and heads out um, to Israel. So when he gets there, he gives the letter to the king. But of course, the king is not the one that's going to heal him, right? Because remember, the little girl said the prophet, and this was the king. So of course, the king is frustrated about it because he's like, I can't heal you, I'm not God. But Prophet Elisha hears about this, about what had been going on, and tells the king of Israel to send Naaman to him because God would heal him. Okay? So Naaman follows the instructions and goes to Prophet Elisha. When he gets to Prophet Elisha tells him, Prophet Elisha doesn't come out to see him. He sends out a message and says for Naaman to go and wash in the river Jordan 7 times and he would be healed. Okay? So when Naaman had this, of course, he was very angry. He was very upset because he was like, I came here, I thought you would come out and see me. I thought you would address my issue, but you're telling me to go do what? Dip myself in the river Jordan 7 times to be healed? Now, of course, Naaman is angry, and according to the Bible, it says he storms away and he's angry and you know, he walks away in rage. But the men that he had gone with tried to talk him down and calm him down and say, listen, why don't you just hear out what the man of God is telling you? If he had asked for something more complicated, would you not have done it? So, of course, they reason with him and it makes sense. And then he decides to go along with the instruction that he's been given. And out of that, Naaman was healed. According to the Bible, it says that, so in verse 14, so Naaman went down to the Jordan River, dipped himself 7 times as the man of God had instructed him, and his skin became as healthy as the skin of a young child, and he was healed. Okay? So that is the story of Naaman and how he got healed. Which brings me to our discussion for today. What is that struggle in your life? That one sticking issue that even with everything else around your life that's going on well, it's the one thing that it sticks out like a sore thumb. What's that one thing that you want a solution for, but you can't seem to find it? Stick with me, okay? Let's start from the point when the maidservant tells her mistress about the prophet in Samaria. Sometimes your healing, sometimes your solution may come from a very unlikely source. In the case of Naaman, it was the maidservant. In your case, I do not know where your solution will come from, but it is probably not where you're looking. You've probably tried so many things. You've probably tried everything that you have been told, and it's not working. My question to you is, are you humble enough to receive that instruction when it comes? Because Naaman could have said, what does this little young girl know? What does she know? Right? She's simply my wife's maid. What does she know? But you see, you have to get to that point of desperation where you are humble enough to take the advice from the most unlikely source. Again, what is that thing in your life? What is that thing that even your money cannot fix? What is that thing even your intellect cannot solve? So just think about the unlikely sources in your life. Have they seemed to bring something that could be a solution? Has something been said to you that seems like it could be the solution to your problem? But because you don't think it's coming from a reliable source, it won't be good enough, right? Okay, follow along. Remember, we said that Naaman was a commander in the army. So he was a big shot, right? So what does that mean? He was treated with a certain level of respect, a certain level of honor, right? He had people bowing down to him. He had lots of people under his authority. But he humbled himself enough to go to the prophet, right? But here is the thing that's interesting. When he went to the prophet didn't come out to meet him. He simply sent out an instruction for him. Now, sometimes you have to grovel. Sometimes you have to grovel to get what you want. Sometimes you literally have to get dirty, to get messy, to get into the trenches. Sometimes your answer is in the trenches. Diamond is never seated at the top of the surface. It's in the rough, it's in there. It's literally not hanging around just at the surface. So, are you willing to get dirty? Are you willing to humble yourself enough to get the result that you want? Are you humble enough to get the healing? Are you humble enough to do the dirty work that is required of you to get to the place you need to get to? Sometimes groveling might make you appear to be a fool to those around you. And 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 27 says, instead God shows things the world considers foolish in order to shame those who think they are wise. And he chose things that are powerless to shame those who are powerful. So the Lord will use the things that appear foolish to us in order to shame the wise. Naaman should have gone to the best doctor in town, right? The best dermatologist in town. He probably did. And they didn't give him a solution. And while going to the prophet is not a foolish thing, it's the instruction that appeared to be foolish. It seemed like the most mundane thing to do. Because at one point in the Bible, in that same story, when Naaman is angry about the instruction, he asks, he asks, he asks, he's ranting to his men, and he's saying, aren't the rivers of Damascus, Abana, and Pharpar better than the rivers of Israel? Like, did I really just come all this way to come into your waters that are regular, right? I could have done that over there, washed and been healed. So technically, what he's saying is, I could have done all of this foolishness over there and didn't have to come down for it here, right? We could have achieved the same result. But no, you didn't have an instruction before from God. Now you have an instruction. And the instruction is dip 7 times in River Jordan. Dip 7 times in River Jordan. So, while that might seem foolish, right? It was the instruction from which he received healing. So, what is that foolish thing that you have to do? What is that thing that everyone around you is looking at you and thinking, are you insane? If you remember the story of Hannah, when she went to pray, she appeared to be drunk because at some point she was overwhelmed and she seemed to be murmuring, and it appeared like she was drunk. So maybe the people who are looking at her were thinking, this woman is losing her mind. She wants a child so bad that she has lost her mind, right? But what was Hannah doing? Hannah was groveling. Hannah was praying to God. And what did God do? Gave her the son, right? But before that happens, it's crazy until it happens, right? It's the thing that nobody believes. Naaman has been leprous all his life, and it almost seems unbelievable that this act of dipping in the river 7 times would heal him. So, what is that thing that appears absolutely insane, even to you? What's that thing that you seem to be ignoring? Because it doesn't seem right, it doesn't seem proper. And how many times are we like Naaman, right? Where the answer to our long suffering is right before us, but we can't see it because we are so preconsumed with pride, with arrogance. Or sometimes you feel like you've done it all, and the simplest solution cannot be the answer. Because you're thinking, like he said, he could have gone to the rivers of Damascus and all them, and he could have washed there and he would have been healed. So, what is that thing where you feel like, I have been to every doctor, I have done this, I have done the other, I have prayed, I have fasted, I have sown seeds, I have done A, B, C, D. Is there no balm in Gilead? You see, I can't tell you what that problem is for you, but you know. You know that issue. You know what the elephant in the room is for you. But guess what? The Bible is telling us that the Lord chooses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. He's going to use those things, the most mundane things, to prove to us that our human wisdom is not enough. Because he's God, that's just what he is. He's God. He's not man that he should lie. He's not a son of man that he should change his mind. So if he said deep in the river 7 times, you better get deeping if you want your healing. Get over yourself. Get over yourself. Get over your pride and your arrogance. And get the healing. Get the deliverance. Get the answer. Because I promise you, it may be not as complicated as we think it is. You know, the instruction is very simple and very basic, but we are sophisticated. We are sophisticated. Sometimes we think of ourselves as being very highly educated, well placed in society. We come from seemingly well to do backgrounds. We assume that the solution must also be just as sophisticated as we are. Sometimes all the Lord is requiring from you is something else. I have had people say they have cleaned the church bathrooms. They have cleaned the church bathrooms, and the Lord has answered their prayers. There are things that might not make sense to everybody, but if that's what God has told you to do, you have to want your answer bad enough for you to understand that instruction. You have to want it so bad for you to humble yourself to do it. Like I said, the story of Hannah. Hannah already had nothing to lose. You see, she already had nothing to lose. Penina was mocking her. Penina was, she wasn't giving her a break. Everybody around her seemed to mock her. Even Eli himself was telling her, "Ma'am, are you high on something? What are you smoking? What are you drinking?" Right? You have to get to that point of insanity, or at least according to what the world would think. For you to do that thing. So, whatever it is the affliction is, what is it that you believe in God? What is that instruction that the Lord is telling you to follow through with? And that is where the answer is. So, today I just want to urge you all to do one thing. Go back to that instruction that God gave you. That nudging that seems to be coming up every now and then. Sometimes the answer is right before our eyes. When the professionals have done all they know to do, when we have exhausted all the logic, take it back to the author and the finisher of all things. Because he's ready and he's willing. But we have to meet him there. For the miracle to happen, we actually have to meet him there. So just like Naaman, after all is said and done, he followed through with the instruction and deliverance came for him. Now, I do not know what you're believing for. I don't know what it is that you want. But whatever it is, follow through with the instruction. Humble yourself enough to get the answer that you've been looking for. Because I promise you, it's not too far away. It's not too far away. The Bible says that the Lord is near to those that call unto him. He's hearing you calling unto him. The thing is, you're thinking it's some mysterious thing that's supposed to happen. So, whatever it is he's saying to you today to do in your life, do it. Do it and you will see the answer. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, share, like, subscribe, comment, give me some good feedback. Let me know how this is impacting you in your life. I love you. God bless you. And until next time.